Well, hello. It is Sarah Jane from Access Your True Nature. And we had a bit of a technical glitch yesterday on our Truth Bomb Tuesdays with Kara, where we had a wonderful call. So for those of you who weren't on the call, I thought I'd just do a recap because it was too good to sort of let it go. To really look at how we can use the new moon energy in Taurus to break new ground, because this is really what we're doing right now. What we're doing is challenging to us because Taurus just doesn't like change, and therein lies a bit of a problem. So many of my clients, and I certainly found myself doing this a day or two ago, are wanting to really stick in our heels into the mud, dig our heels in, and not budge in this attempt to maintain control over a very chaotic period again. But we have to have more flexible boundaries, and this new moon is really there to support us in planting the seeds to help us to develop our own unique talents. And it's a really good time too to work with our senses, or come to our senses, which are often shut down in sort of the superficial surface stuff that's going on in a very fast-paced me, myself, I society, right? It's the modernistic approach right now, is the quick fix, the fast pill. And one of my age-old lessons, to learn to be patient, to know that there's a time for all things, and also to know your own art of rhythm. The moon cycles is such a beautiful way where we have also lost touch of being in attunement, in resonance, in alignment with our lunar cycles, with our menstrual cycles. That there's a time and a season for everything, and we have to learn to self-pace through these ups and downs, and stop trying to force feelings or outcomes to get our own way. You know, this is often where the difficulty comes. Where we'll step in and trying to fix something that isn't broken, or give somebody well-meaning advice that they're actually not asking for. So it's a really good time to work with our sense of belonging, and look at where are we shut down or resisting or sitting on the fence too long. It's a time to really start to develop new relationships in our sense of belonging with our own senses, natural and subtle senses, because that's where we can learn so much about life, and how we are engaging with life and the things that matter to us, while everything's changing around us. And I love Taurus energy. It's in my North Node, and my best friends just happen to be Taurian, because they're very grounded, and they know that systems and structures are necessary. I like to call them containers, because to me, structures and systems, are being a bit of a maverick and a rule breaker, are things that I have in the past really resisted. But we need structures, just like children and animals need boundaries. We need to create those boundaries for ourselves, to know our no, and to honor our yes. And the Taurian is always symbolized by the garden. And I always say, we have to be willing to tend to our own inner garden, to look at what seeds are we planting. Are we watering it? Are we taking out the weeds? You know, how are you tending to your own internal garden is often a reflection of what you're seeing in the external. So if your garden is overgrown with roots and weeds and dead plants, and you're not cleaning out the beds and putting in fertilizer and watering it and talking to your plants, you know, plants resonate with the energy of love, just as our bodies do, as does the water. So the garden, the internal garden, is a place of beautiful sensual delight, and we are omnisentient, omnipresent living beings in bodies. And this is the place of peace and calm and fertility. It's where we sow the creations and then tend to them, so that we can actually appreciate and give thanks for a harvest, for bounty and abundance. And it's what I think we all long for. So we can reclaim our connection to this earthly paradise when we listen deeply, when we go inside and we do the fertile listening, and then observe the world around us and really understand how it feels for us to belong to that. It's the relation, in relation, it's all relationships to everything outside of us as a relationship. And the earth, how are we relating to her, to great Mother Earth, through our senses? So often nature is going to show us how we're feeling about our own true nature. And we're being called, aren't we, to deeply listen, go deep down into our hearts, into our gut knowing, to practice a more conscious awareness and widen it so that we can learn to listen and respond to Earth's dreaming, right? We are the bridge between heaven and earth. And I loved it because yesterday we pulled some cards from animal totems, and the first card Cara pulled was from frog. And what better medicine for frog to come up at this time where it's been incubating as a tadpole underneath the water, which for us and the moon energies is that deeply watery emotional state of existential fear and safety, and also creativity, our aspect of passive and active reproduction that comes off our bladder. I can always tell someone that's a control freak because they've got cracks on their heels from constantly digging their heels in. So this is a great time to look at, if you are digging your heels in, get a different view. Try walking on your tippy toes and widen your range, just as frog does when he takes that great leap of faith out of the tadpole into a full-grown frog onto the land. And also when you look at this underneath a telescope, the morphic field of a frog is already formed in its tadpole state, just as it is for us. So when we start to listen to that and we start trusting that there's a time to leap, so again, honoring that there's a time and a place, a season for everything, you will know by listening to your internal climate when it's time to sow seeds and when it's time to reap the harvest, or when it's time to let the soil lay fallow and regenerate itself. So the shift is always going to come when we leave behind our left brain rationality and open this right brain of imagine a world. Imagination is so powerful in rewiring and recoding the brain from the old stories. Death of the old story to the brain and the nervous system feels like death to itself. So it's in the practice of deepening into rituality, in feeling the deeper realities of life in a story, in nature, that we're really opening these beautiful doors of our perception, our subtle sense of sight, of being able to see into the unseen and speak to the unspoken in a way that we probably haven't done since early childhood. So, and if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to the series I did on healing the mother wound and the parentified child, because part of this, again, is learning in frog medicine that leaping can be fun, that you wait, right? You wait. A frog is very predatory. It's learning, it's learned patience and stillness within itself to be able to seize opportunity. And eat juicy bug when it comes, because it's not restless. It knows who it is, just as we are remembering who we are. So, our feeling sense is what we use when we're listening to music, or we're listening to the power of a great story, or when you kind of fall in love the first time you see your child or your soulmate. It's not something that we can easily put into words. It's beyond words. It's the energy of resonance. It's the first language that we learn when we come into this world that's nonverbal, and what animals are so good at teaching us how to do again. So, it's through our feeling, our felt sense, that we can access our true nature and all the information on our divine diamond blueprint. It's always been there, just like the tadpole has that morphic field of the completely whole formed adult frog. We come in like that too, and this is what we have to relearn. We have to relate to our world on a felt sense level, a sensitivity of coming back to our hearts and trusting whatever arises and loving that too. um, you know, how we relate is relationship, and everything outside of us, including our internal relationship with our bodies, is what we see oftentimes mirrored on the outside. So relearn and be patient with the relearning. The second card that we pulled was from the white lions of Timbavati, and it was the decide card. It was an action card. So this again is fits so beautifully with the energies of this great new Taurian moon with the Uranus energies in it, to learn to focus on what you want and then make a choice. So often we hesitate and we go into procrastination of making a decision, because as children we're told, decide, decide, decide. You've got to decide now, and it feels like a life or death or all or nothing situation, rather than a commitment to oneself to choose something and focus on that until we're done, or choosing something and then seeing, okay, maybe that isn't what I wanted to choose, and choosing again. Decisions are not finite. We make them so in this perception of something always to lose. What am I going to lose if I don't do this? So the decide card from the white lions of Timbavati was just perfect when you think again of how beautifully the lions blend into their environment in the savanna grass, and the plain is wide until something moves, and then everything, the buck that the lion is focusing on, all the buck are looking to see, is this danger we need to run away from, or is this just the wind? And lionesses hunt in prides, because the younger lionesses depend on the wisdom of the older lionesses, which have more weight and more experience, to make sure that the whole pride eats that night. So there is also a sense in this of looking at our relationships, looking at where relationships are toxic and letting them go, and also looking in where do we need to nurture and tend to right relationship, the ones that matter. So this new moon, I'm in love with this new moon, probably because my North Node is in Taurus. And remember, if you don't know where your North and South Node is, it's a great place to start to deepen into your understanding of the South Node being your Akashic record, all the lifetime experiences, your karma that you've had in other lifetimes. Oftentimes the triggers that we experience come from this fallback into the default pattern of what we know in the South Node. So being able to know where your North Node is, focusing on the end and enjoying the destination, the journey, rather than resisting the ups and the downs on the way, is really what we're looking to grow into and to right relationship with. Is stop wasting time not enjoying the present moment where you are now, but keep your mind focused on your alignment, your authenticity, your power, your intentional focus, your congruence with what matters to you and how you want to live into the present moment. This is really how we return to our hearts, and a space of love and self-empowerment, to really rediscover our ability to be fully engaged in how to live deeply, deeply happy in our aliveness. It's a little different to the meaning making of the hero's journey, but so relational again. When Hummingbird came in as the third card that Kara pulled, of just thinking about the physicality of Hummingbird, that she can flap her wings at such a speed that her body is completely still as she sips from the sweetness of the flower. So noticing when you need to push pause on the world, and noticing when it's time to take flight. This is really where we're being asked, as the sort of new moon, very opposed by Jupiter retrograde in Scorpio, demands that we stop projecting our issues and our assumptions and our own shadows out there. Remember, hurt just begets more hurt. So we have to change how we're doing one thing, then we get to change how we do everything. So it's really a beautiful invitation for all of us in our collective trauma, to start to fill in and engage with a renewed sense of hope and love. And that's what I love about Hummingbird, is the full circle from tadpole to frog, to the decision making and the timing and self-pacing of the ups and downs of the lionesses, not to take more than we need from nature, looking at what Mother Nature, Gaia, Pachamama is asking of us in the choices that we're making, and starting to do this inner work to heal our own shadows. Nature heals, even the shadow. We need it. There's so many dark gifts in the shadows, and I speak a lot about this in healing the blind spots and turning trauma into truth telling. In the shadow dancing class and Illuminate. So if you're interested in going deeper in this, into changing your dialogue, not just with the people that you're responding to, but your internal dialogue with your mean girl, your inner saboteur, and also to know that if you're in a relationship, it's time to acknowledge if your partner is enhancing your life or draining you. I always say, if somebody doesn't contribute to more, to better for you, why are you choosing it? You know, this is oftentimes, and I've been there myself, where we stay in relationships that are hurtful or abusive longer than we need to, for fear of what we think we're going to lose, rather than what can I gain from a space of right relationship, in trusting that I'm enough and trusting that I'm worthy of love. So partnerships are supposed to bring out the best in us. And we're supposed to feed each other and fill each other up from the overflow. So if you're in relationships where that's not happening, whether it's work related or in your love life or with your friends or your groups, you know, maybe it's time to take a break and recenter yourself. Find your own still point. You are the calm. You are the eye in the storm. So stay centered in your inner self and very grounded in the earth. Taurus is very much about grounding. Just think about the sheer size of Bull, and the focus, the determination of Bull as he snorts and uses the fire breath and stomps the ground before he charges, the matador. Not that I like bullfighting, but you get the picture of that. So, you know, use that energy, that determination and that self-empowerment to focus on what you want to focus on. We're almost mid-year already. So focus on the next 90 days and use the energy of frog and lioness and hummingbird to support you in looking at what that would look like for you. Because the world is not going to get any less stressful. It seems like we're in this devolution of descending into chaos. We're kind of going down the rabbit hole. So when you know that you are the one that's grounding in your own still point, that 0 point field, that you are the center, you are the author of your own life, then anything that is hard, in the impatience of also this Mars and this Uranus aspect that's happening right now, I know you want to be free now. You want it all fixed, and you want to bypass the work, and it's not easy to do. You know, just as tadpole has to wait to grow, or lioness has to wait for the plane to be the best optimal chances of her catching her prey. The same as for us. It's time to really use this Taurus influence that doesn't want to feel rushed, and also that you don't want to lose what makes you feel safe and secure. So it's a bit of a dance, but it can be a beautiful dance if you just start with that still point and trust that you're already exercising your muscles along with this planetary alignment right now to get where you want. So stay focused on the end point, but don't forget to enjoy the journey along the way. You know, this is really a good time, as I said, to really fully accept that you are on solid ground, and its absolute certainty is going to change very, very quickly. So, you know, are you putting your foundational roots into clay or quicksand, or are you putting your roots down into really vibrant, healthy, living soil. It's going to feel like a big shake up because our cells are literally vibrating at a faster code. It's encoded in the genes, and we're releasing this new information on a quantum level. So see this as a priming time to really start to surrender to the old ways and accept change as a constant. This is why we need to water our wood in Chinese medicine. We need to have the flexibility to weather any storm that comes, and also, know that some days are going to feel like a walk in the park, but something wild is about to take root in your garden, and it's likely to look a lot different to what you think it's going to look like or anything you've ever seen before. So get excited about that. Do the groundwork. Tend to your soil, and dream big, but then put in the rituality, the daily systems and rituals, and keep your appointments with yourself so that you can actualize all these dreams and visions and bring them down into the earth plane, not just for yourself, but in service of others that are looking for what only you have to share. So that's it for today. I know it was a bit of a long one, but that's it. Enjoy this Taurus time. And if you need any questions, or you like this, or you know someone that would benefit from it, please like it or share it. And you know where I am if you want to go deeper into this. Let me know if you want to know more about the mindfulness change process, if you want to know more about Illuminate or the Dancing in the Shadows short course. Let me know. Let me know if I'm a fit for you. Get on the phone and we can set that up. And let's use this as fuel right now to rise up and make a better life for you and your loved ones. All right. Lots of love. Bye. Mwah.